Top of the morning to you, Bear Mountains. Just want to go through the series of the 7 novels in the Bear Mountain series, just very quickly. This is the prequel to The Alpine Crucible, and as it says here, Book 0, this is the first book. This is how Jack discovers Megumi, meets Megumi, they get married, but how they discover Bear Mountain. And this one is called The Last Best Place, Bear Mountain, the Bierstadt edition. The cover of the book is the 1861 Sierra Grande Bierstadt. For those that don't know, Bierstadt was a very famous American Midwest painter, oil painter. And Jack is transfers from the SAS in Hereford in the UK. He's an Australian, but he's over there. And he comes into the Japan Defense Force in Tokyo to do some series of lectures. But also, it's set up by the MI6. They transfer him there. Once he gets there, they call him out of retirement from sanctioning. He was doing hits for the MI6, the CIA. And after the lecture, he gets the call from a bunker from one of the heads of MI6 to travel out to Sewer Lake, which is about 300 kilometers, almost, a bit under 300 kilometers west of Tokyo. So he travels out there. He ends up taking on the assignment. He didn't want to do it. He'd retired. And then throughout his career in the SAS, he was also doing sanctions, but getting paid huge amounts of money, millions of dollars, to do these hits on high-value targets, on nefarious targets, to take them out. So he travels out there, and he meets Dragon in the bunker under Sewer Lake. He takes on the assignment. They go to transfer $10 million US into his account. He then needs to do, that's done through cryptocurrency. He has to launder that money somehow because he can't be spending it. So he bids anonymously online for the Bierstadt, the Grand Sierra 1861. And he's been wanting this painting, for as long as he can remember. It's a place that he's been searching for deep in his soul, which he didn't know existed. Anyway, while he's out there, he discovers this dirt road that winds up the valley from Suwa, which goes to Haramura in the Tatashina Highlands. And the road was literally opened up in 1955, which is the truth. And that's a true story. You can go and Google that online. But he travels up through this beautiful green, lush farming, ranching valley in the Alpine, and he discovers this huge mountain peak called the Shark's Fin. And he climbs that in the book, which is a 3,200 meter peak, because Jack is an avid climber, both ice and granite rock climbing, and a skier. And while he's at the very peak, he looks around when he summits, and he looks back down into the valley, and he realizes that the place he's looking down upon from 3 kilometers up is actually the Bierstadt, and hence the last best place, and hence him buying land there, a vast amount of land there, and building, and how he meets Megumi. She's also in the Japan Self-Defense Force as a special forces, and she also is a practitioner in martial arts, in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and they both have the very similar connections, and the Book of Five Rings, they both live by it, and Musashi. And there's a poem of Musashi's written in 1645, which was it's in the novel, and Jack, adds a very new version of that in the book to it. But let me take you into some of the notes on this. So I've got this up on the big screen. This is some of the PR for The Last Best Place. So there's a great quote here. It says, "You do not find the last best place. The last best place finds you." And this is a very physical component to the story about how the mountain itself is actually a character in the whole series. And the mountain draws Jack in. It selects Jack. But anyway, I'll just read this. "There are men who choose their mountain and men who are chosen by it. The first kind make a decision. The second kind receives a calling." And that's what happens. With the Bierstadt edition is where it begins. Jack and Megumi Rinel walking away from the world that could not contain them, into the Tatashina Highlands, where the mountain is not backdrop but judge. The first cross on the Freedom Wall, which I'll go through that in a second. The first question asked, the first answer. Let me take you through some of the quotes on this. A great segment I wrote at the beginning of this for the PR. So for the series quotes, I wrote this about the whole series, but there is something real. There is something about a real story, how it enters a writer, how it demands to be told, and how it changes the one who tells it, and also the reader for that matter. But that's very true. And how a story does enter a reader is by some divine, intervention for sure. And how this story, or how the series of stories entered myself and how I wrote them. The Bear Mountain series is not entertainment. It is a hard reckoning with how the universe actually works. Fear is the opposite of love. Most of the modern world is built on fear, disguised as comfort, throwaway, hollow, frivolous, spineless, outsourced to institutions that will never show up when it matters. The Bear Mountain offers the opposite path. It draws you into a fearful place, high, cold, unforgiving, where the mountain itself keeps score. You walk every battle with the crew. You feel the smoke in your lungs, the weight of the axe, the question on the Freedom Wall. You run toward the black. You carry what you must carry. And when you come out the other side, something has changed. You surrender to the mountain. You understand what it means. You are baptized at the Freedom Wall, not by water, by fire, cedar smoke, and earned consequence. You leave knowing that real things are not given. They are built, defended, and paid for every single morning at 3:50 when Jack wakes up and starts splitting wood every morning. And that's how he goes through his, cathartic process of starting the day. Goes outside 365 days a year, 350, and splits wood, which he finds very therapeutic. Anyway, book 0. There's We the People, the Freedom Wall, they call it. Megumi and Jack built that on the ranch. Megumi painted that in Gothic calligraphy script font, and they used that to, as a shooting target for both their compound bows and their guns. There is the Bear Mountain Loggers truck stop, the 2 flags, and that is the last best place. Some places are not found. Some places are not found. They are recognized. Anyway, let's go into book 2. So very quickly, book 2, The Alpine Crucible, was the first novel I wrote in the series during COVID. And The Last Best Place is the prequel to this story. But there's Jack and Megumi, and that is climbing the Shark's Fin at 3,200 meters, looking down onto the last best place, their ranch, which they ended up building in this second story. They've got the ranch there then with the Fornicatorium, which is in the basement, which is a bank vault door they bought in an antique store in Matsumoto, an 1880s bank vault door out of a bank, a decommissioned bank. And they put that down there, and they've got a Fornicatorium, which is a gun room with 1,500 weapons in there. Tactical vests, night vision, compound bows, everything. It's quite a fantastic a chamber. It is brilliant. And their vaulted ceiling, their ranch, their Angus Wagyu beef cattle directly below the Shark's Fin in the Haramura Valley. And there's the Bear Mountain Loggers truck stop in Honky Tonk. This is also a great story. It's about the consortium and from Luxembourg, and about the digital sentinel AI and their plan to basically create a dystopic, authoritarian, totalitarian world via censorship and social credit scores. And how Jack and the team in Bear Mountain, this ragtag team of group of people from all different walks of life, a lot of them being ex-veterans, but ranchers, loggers, truckers, the loggers, grill and bar owner, musicians. It's and then you've got Chowder, Dogballs, Diesel Boy. The characters are, as I said, this ragtag group of men and women that come together in Bear Mountain, like the ski resort owner, the Bear Mountain Inn, Mickey. You've got the gas station owner, his wife. You've got some real eccentric characters in there with Tourette syndrome and all sorts of people. It's the Sheriff Grizzly. But it's fantastic in how they take on these massive undertakings and take down these consortiums. The third novel in the series is The Bear Mountains, inside Gulgowa's Shrine, the Vale edition. And you can see here, I guess you can see up on this screen, the huge compound that's been fortified, and that has been built up in Bear Ravine. And that in the center there is Father Cain. So he's this narcissistical, cult leader, and his father is a billionaire. His father is using his son to actually do a land grab for the water rights, which this whole series is all about. And he has this lab-grown plant, which is mountain vale, which they grow out in the meadows, and it changes the microbiome in the human stomach, but it also changes the RNA in animals, and it makes animals almost become like zombified, but very aggressive, and they have to cage them. But the animals will attack anything once they become like, it's like a drug. It is a drug, but it's like this euphoric drug when they have it that lobotomizes anything, humans and animals, and then turns you into this crazed fucking psychopath that just wants to shred and kill. And it goes back to this almost innate instinct of what the animal was, but on steroids, of just apex predator and killing. So the bears, the wolves, they use those to help defend and protect their fortified shrine, which is massive, 400 people, cult members inside the shrine. They have towers. They've put it up over Bear Ravine and blocked the dam and taken over the water. Now, the mountain vale is seeping into everything, the tap water, everything. And Jack first gets a dose of it when he's up riding his horse up on the high paddock above the house with Bulldozer, his 800-kilo Wagyu bull, and some of his herd of cattle. And he gets the pollen. And he gets back to the house and he's like, whoa, like very hallucinogenic. And it's euphoric and takes you into like a outer space, very heady, like a, what do you call it? Like LSD, trippy, very trippy, but very euphoric state. And Jack sort of wonders what the hell happened. And, that was the first dose of him getting it. But other people in the town are getting it through the drinking water, through the showering, bathing. And this cult just keeps growing. It's very evil how it grows. But it also, at the same time, Father Cain is against the whole woke diversity and emasculation of the Marxist indoctrinated West. So that's where Jack and he see eye to eye. And the whole purpose of this cult was to try and preserve, a stoicism and masculinity and, not so much Christian values, but similar to how, the nuclear family was. So he's very opposed to the whole Western Marxist indoctrinated brainwashing of how they've feminized masculinity, and women are basically in charge of all these CEO roles, and the diversity, the destruction of the West civilization. And so this is how he easily, brings people into the cult, and then with the Mountain Vale. So this is 400 people within this cult who are high on this, like almost like it's a cross between an amphetamine and a what do you call it? A psycho hallucinogenic drug versus 40 people in the town of Bear Mountain. And it's quite a battle. And then at the same time, Jack and the team are also trying to fight the consortium in Tokyo and Luxembourg. So it's quite a battle and quite a book. Book 4 in the series is Black Wind, the Smoke Jumpers edition. And again, there is the consortium. Again, it's land grab. What happens in the first act, not in the first chapters, but the first act, we get to, meet the ski resort owner's family and all the townspeople, which is this last best place on earth, Bear Mountain. And 2 hitmen come and break into the Bear Mountain Ski Resort, Bear Mountain Inn, the owners, and they go to sanction the mother and father and daughter, because they want the land. It's a land grab for the water rights. And Aya is the daughter. She's the 17-year-old daughter. They kill the mother. The father gets away without spoiling it too much. But Aya doesn't know what's going on. She comes out. She captures it on a video phone, sanctioning the killing of her mother. And she escapes. So she goes straight into the woods, into the backwoods behind. And they see that. Aya then sends the video to Megumi and says, look, I'm on the run. I'm heading for Bear Falls. And she says, Mum's just been assassinated. She videos the two assassins. Megumi then gets the video, sees that, goes, oh my God. Shares that with Jack and the team. Aya heads into Bear Falls, but the assassins send a drone after her, and the drone crashes at the base of Bear Falls, hits the brush, all the dead brush there, starts this big wildland firefighter, and you can see Paul's C-130 with the World War II German decals on the tail. He loves World War II German aviation and decals, as the whole team do. You can see Dogball's name on the back of the helmet there, smoke jumping into the wildfire. Anyway, from there, the Jack and the team need to smoke jump into the wildfire, into the black wind. It's very stoic and it's fast-paced, but it's a great novel. And at the same time, they've got assassins. Then another assassin is deployed from Tokyo. And Sidewinder Schmidt. So we've got Diesel Boy, Jack Rennell, Megumi Rennell, Steve Jugs, Sidewinder Schmidt, Aya Hancock, Torch, Dogballs, Chowder, Whitey Morgan, Mickey Gorback, Paul Rennell, plus all the other characters that are in all the other novels. And they're dropping straight in, smoke jumping into the fire to try and get Aya up before she's killed. She's up in a cave and the fire is blasting upwards, but they've also got the hitmen after them. And Sidewinder Schmidt gets burnt alive. He gets taken out, unfortunately. But Jack and the team fly in after that. They fly into Tokyo in a small light aircraft that Paul's got. And they do a Black Ops mil-spec mission on the 67th floor of the tower president of the consortium who, sanctioned the hit and basically was going after the land rights of Aya's family. And that killed Sidewinder Schmidt as well. And they take him out. They come back. They save the valley. But great story. Book 5, we've got Blood Canyon, the Black Basalt edition. Again, so inside Gilgoa Shrine and Blood Canyon and the previous novel, they're a series within a series about the water rights and fighting the consortium. So there we've got Dogballs, we've got Jack Rennell, Steve Jugs, and this is fast pace. It's, if you're into Cormac McCarthy, Blood Meridian, Butcher's Crossing, plus Taylor Sheridan style neo-Western, Black Ops, but very stoic, masculine, abrupt prose, then you're going to love this. It's a great novel. And that is the closure within within the series of the water rights and fighting the consortium. That is me in the Bear Mountain Loggers truck stop and honky tonk pulling a beer. And directly under that, we've got the Whitey Morgan's drummer's drum kit and the Telecaster, Whitey's Telecaster, and the Bear Mountain Loggers stage there. So this is one of my favorite books in the series. It's so fucking good. This is a heist, the most elaborate, insane heist, I think, ever attempted. And if you like heist movies like Steven Soderbergh's Ocean's 11, which is, this ragtag group of Motley Crue guys who are like borderline nut job retards, but insane, IQ 9000 insane, you're going to love this. So you got Dogballs and Chowder who are IQ 9000 smart, just so smart. But at the same time, they come across like absolute retards. And they do the full MacGyver, pulling off this mental fucking heist. that is in the hundreds of billions of dollars, that is underneath Bear Mountain in the catacombs and the tunnels that were built and constructed during World War II by the Japanese Imperial Army and working with the German Third Reich. And together they built this network of tunnels that were powered by hydro and the water flowing through to turn turbines. But it's what's kept in there and maintained all these decades after. And it's controlled with patents, legal patents, to a consortium in Luxembourg by Nazis that are still living, the offspring of these the Third Reich Nazis, and Klaus Hugo Claw and various other individuals, which is a bunch of servers in there, which is basically holding hundreds of billions of dollars of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. And it's how they pull this off. And what they're looking to do is take the mountain legally by patent. And so this ragtag, motley crew, group of ex-Rangers, Navy SEALs, SAS, ranchers, loggers, truckers, bikers, musicians, everything on Bear Mountain, which are the Bear Mountains, come together and they pull off this most insane, elaborate heist that has ever been undertaken of anything I've ever seen. And I am an avid film watcher and reader. There's nothing like this. This could be made into a standalone blockbuster masterpiece motion picture, and it would kick Ocean's 11's ass, or Lucky Logan. Any of those movies about heists that Soderbergh's done, it will kick their ass. It's so fucking clever and so insane and so entertaining. But it's, I think, one of my favorite, is the Bear Mountain Loggers. And the Square Body Trucks, the We the People wall, and that's a must-read. So the seventh and final novel in the series thus far is Night Rodeo, and yeah, it's... So we've got Whitey Morgan here. We've got Cody Ishikawa, the young 20-year-old, 19-year-old rodeo bronkbuster, rank bull wreck rider. We've got all the local townies, the bull rider, the mechanical bull in the loggers. We've got Chowder and dog balls there. And throughout, something I didn't mention, but throughout the entire series, in every single novel, there is the Night Rodeo. And what it is this community, which I didn't mention, is the community of Bear Mountain is made up of, there's a lot of ex-Texans, expat Texan ranchers and Australian cattle ranchers who have moved to this valley, which is the case in real life, and along with Japanese ranchers, and this beautiful oasis that's up in the Alpine in Japan's Central Alps, Bear Mountain, and it's full of all these huge, big ranches like back home in Australia or Texas, but they're big ranches. And so it's got this eclectic community, which is held together of this Christian, stoic, masculine rancher from Australia and Texas, but then also the Buddhist, rancher, Japanese rancher, and it's just they dovetail and they work very well, and it's a great community. Everybody gets along together, and like I said, then you've got this ragtag, community of diesel mechanics and aviation mechanics and truckers and loggers and bikers, and they all share this thing in common, which is the Bear Mountain Loggers truck stop, which is like their church, their community hall, their therapist sessions, their live music with Whitey Morgan. And Whitey himself, you're reading the books, he found this place by accident and loved it so much. He said it was more Americana than America, or the honky-tonk was more honky-tonk and Americana and real outlaw country than anything in America. So he moved to Bear Mountain in Japan. And like all these people, they come together and they share this love for outlaw country music, and it's the Waylon Jennings way of life. And the square body 1970s Chevrolet, Dodge, GMC, and Ford Broncos from the late 60s, early 70s, and then the V8 muscle cars as well, and rolling coal and diesel. Anyway, this is quite a philosophical novel, but it's about the 8 seconds and finding out who you really are. And there's a great quote there that I came up with, but God blesses his most badass warriors. the ones who see the trap, who still choose to live free like free men. And it's all about that 8 seconds and pushing that and becoming, like in anything, like any sport or skiing or rugby or anything. It's like there's always going to be someone crazier out there who's going to push it to 11 tenths and be the guy who, who gets the ball across the line or skis off that frickin' frozen waterfall and stomps the landing in the powder snow without falling back and breaking his arms on the ice. And that's what this is all about. And it's the closure to the series thus far, but it's a great novel. And if you like the movie Roadhouse or Yellowstone, and again, Taylor Sheridan, but also Cormac McCarthy, you're going to love this. If you're not into Cormac McCarthy, it's not for you. None of this series is. It's just not going to jive with you. But again, the music, the people, the vibe, and the stories, they're immersive. They pull you into the world. You are there. The Bear Mountain itself is a character. And you live, eat, and breathe the Bear Mountain loggers and every character. And the characters' arcs in this are fantastic. The characters themselves are fantastic. The loggers itself is like a character. So is Bear Mountain. And it's I love this novel. I love it a lot. It's very different from all the rest, but it's a great way to close this series, I think. And then I'll do maybe series 2. And just to close, a couple of great quotes. We Don't Dial 911 and Night Rodeo, but this one sums up We Don't Dial 911. The convoy is 11 years of answered Freedom Wall questions loaded into square body trucks and sent down the mountain at 0300 JST as the only answer that matters to men who believe a spreadsheet can own a place like this. The mountain disagrees. Its disagreement arrives with outlaw country music on full blast and 4 interlocking operational elements executed with the precision of a man who has never missed when it mattered. The spreadsheet has no valley left to describe. That's a great quote for trying to sum up the heist, because the heist is if you're going to read one book, read that. That's a great way to get into it, into the series, because it's a standalone masterpiece, in my opinion. The 6th Bear Mountain novel, We Don't Dial 911, is about what happens when a Luxembourg-backed consortium arrives with 80-year-old tunnel infrastructure beneath the valley floor and a spreadsheet that says this land is theirs. It's about what Bear Mountain has built in 11 years that a spreadsheet cannot measure or anticipate. It's about Jack Rennell on the edge above the Bear Falls Road, orchestrating 4 interlocking elements with the cold geometric precision of a man who has done this his entire life and never missed when it mattered. Yeah, this is the heist. Finally, in closing, the only question that matters. The Freedom Wall asks one question. It has been asking the same question every morning since year 1. Every man, every woman who walks through the door of the Bear Mountain Loggers truck stop and honky tonk reads it before they pick up their mug. That is, bear or be born down. 7 novels, 7 books of answered questions, a community built cross by cross, morning by morning, axe swing by axe swing, corridor line by corridor line, gorge operation by gorge operation, convoy by convoy, rodeo by rodeo. The reader who finishes the Bear Mountain series comes out on the other side carrying that question in their chest, not as something read, as something felt, as the weight of their own life examined honestly, in the cold, at altitude, with the mountain keeping score. The real things are not given, they're built. They're defended. They're paid for every morning at 3:50. Stay hard, warfighters.